Opportunity podcast. This is the second instalment of our podcast, and I'm joined with Jacob, Camo, and myself, Noah. This week we have a few extra segments and some exciting ones to talk about. We hope you guys enjoy.
Alright, boys. I think we should start with our tips from last week, see how we went on the guessing base.
Rightio.
So, let's start with Noah, mate. How did you go with your tips on the weekend?
I went alright, actually, Camo.
Yeah?
Got 7 from 7.
Oh,
So I was
good on ya.
pretty pleased with that, mate.
Jacob, how'd you go?
I had a pretty disappointing round. I went for a couple of smokies.
Yep.
I ended up getting a 5 out of 7.
Oh, gee, that's stiff. I got 7 out of 7 like Noah as well. I got 7 out of 7 for Noah as well, yeah. Thank you. Hopefully, Jacob will go a little better this round. Definitely hard to pick fixtures at this hard time. Yeah, get to our tips at the end of the episode. Alright, Jacob, you lead match analysis with Adelaide and Melbourne.
So, Adelaide played Melbourne on Wednesday night. It was a tough, hard-fought game for the first 3 quarters. And they just ended up running out of legs, and Melbourne straight away with it. But one standout player, Dees, was Clayton Oliver.
Yes.
He was an absolute star. He had 34 disposals, and 22 of them was contested.
Yep.
It's amazing. So the 11 clearances to go that. B, back in form. What's happening at Adelaide? Look, they're winless out of 10 games. Still got 8 teams to come. So, my question is, Adelaide, they need that X factor, or else they won't win a game.
Yeah. And I think we can...
in there that can...
Yeah, go on.
To lift their side, the X factor, they will kick a goal when they need to, and they'll stand up the times when they're down or they're lost momentum.
Yeah, and I think if Adelaide are looking for someone to get momentum started again, definitely not going to be Tex Walker. 5 disposals, one of the main leaders of the club, the old campaigner. He's just not showing anything at the moment, and he needs to show more.
He's really starting to go downhill, I think. He's getting a bit old, and I just feel like his captaincy, or not captaincy at the moment, but when he was, his leadership hasn't been the greatest, and I feel like they need a new young gun almost to start them going again.
Yeah, and that
need to bring back that mullet.
Oh, jeez, please no. So
that's how he plays good footy.
That begs us to ask the question: Adelaide couldn't beat Melbourne, who were below the bottom. Is there going to be a game that they can come out on top this season at all?
See, I wouldn't be surprised if they came up against one of the top sides and had a surprising win. They're losing to just about every team in the comp at the moment, and I feel like just one game that they win will be something against the top side that they play one of their best games of footy that we've seen for a while. So
you're saying that it almost relies. So you're saying that it'll basically almost rely on a fluke win for Adelaide to get one.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yep. I can't see them doing it any other way at the moment.
But I'm with no on this one. But the game has to be played at Adelaide Oval.
You think? Yeah.
Yes, it does. I feel like it does too.
Can't win anywhere else.
Yeah, that's very true. And Noah, you had the next game that happened a couple of nights ago from this. Collingwood Sydney. Take us through it.
Collingwood Sydney. It was a very, very interesting game actually. But they had a close game, but not according to the stats. Collingwood 6 goals 14, woeful kicking.
Yep.
To Sydney's 6 goals 5. And that goal kicking by Collingwood hasn't been the greatest that we've seen. But not just that game, just about every game this week has been horrible with their kicking, as we've seen. But
yeah,
20 scoring shots to 11. And you look at that and you think, well, how can it only be the 9-point win when there's 20 scoring shots to 11? But that's what happens when there's no one scoring as many goals as they were with the points.
Yeah.
to only win by 9 points was a big surprise to me. Not being on point with their kicks. But Sydney did look to come back in that final quarter, only down by 3 points.
Yeah.
Having all the momentum, and then Josh Dacos kicking the winning goal.
Yeah, big moment.
To seal it, to put him up by 9. With just over a minute left in the game,
yeah.
that was very big.
Now we can talk about the Josh Dacos goal all we want, but in reality, it shouldn't have come that close anyway. He shouldn't have had to kick that clutch goal because they should have been so much further on top of Sydney, but they weren't, and he stepped up.
Yeah, well, if you look back at the play, he got the ball and he was running out towards the out of bounds, and one of the Sydney players came over to tackle him out. And he's handballed the ball straight in front of him.
Yep.
And he's run onto the ball. No one was there. And all the coaches looking at themselves like, what's going on here? What's happened? And he's just kicked it and slotted it. And it's like, well, there's just the defence. The defence going to get a spray at the end of the game because no one was there. They were all standing around watching him kick the ball.
Yep.
It was a bit odd.
Monday.
Exactly.
I want to bring this to your attention.
Yeah.
Is Tom Patley most hated footballer in the AFL at the moment? I know a lot of people.
I think he is.
For me personally, yes.
People that don't like it.
Yeah. Well, then again, he has been sanctioned. News coming out of the AFL last night that the sanction of $500 has been issued to him for diving. But you think $500 isn't going to stop an AFL player from attempting to win a game by milking something?
In my opinion, I don't have a problem with Tom Patley. I know a few people that do. I know once playing some video games with my friends, and then his dad in the background wasn't happy with Tom Patley.
Yeah.
Talking a free, bumping him over. Wasn't happy at all. He was yelling.
While you're there, Jacob, mate?
Yeah, Basil Fort and his father.
There we go.
Basil.
Rightio.
And then also...
Just to finish on that game quickly, sorry. Collingwood also outplaying Sydney on the disposals.
Yes.
An extra 91 to them, 333 to Collingwood and 241 to Sydney. That is massive when you look at that.
And I think there was also the shin gash to Quaynor, but we'll get into that later because that's a big talking point. All right then. So the next one I've got I've got the Port Adelaide versus the Dogs. So as I was watching the game, as I was starting my match analysis, the first thing I did was to actually go back and look at the press conference from Luke Beveridge as I was compiling my notes. I looked back at the Bulldogs coach's press conference, and he said it was the one that got away from the Bulldogs because a late goal at the end of the first half for the Power put momentum with them, and it was ultimately too strong for them. With the crowd that was there for Port Adelaide, I believe it was 14,000. So the crowd was there for Port Adelaide. They had momentum, and you can't really overpower the top team at home with a good crowd going. And I was also noticing in that game there was things that the Dogs could have done better. So Latham Vandermeer missed 2 set shots in about 2 minutes from the exact same spot, spraying at the same side of the goal. So you can't be sort of fluctuating at AFL level. You have to be consistent. And then, of course, obviously there's Charlie Dixon, who I think is the most unstoppable one-on-one player in the competition. I'll give you anyone a lot of money. I won't. But if Charlie Dixon is in a one-on-one, I don't think I've ever seen him lose one. He's that much of a beast that I don't think anyone can outpower him.
Yeah, and I feel like he's starting to stand up a lot, Charlie Dixon. He's a much better player. He wasn't very talked about the last few seasons.
Yeah.
But now he's starting to become a much better and bigger player. And just with the ball, his marking has improved so much.
Yeah.
And his kicking has just really started to improve a lot. He's going to be a very, very good player.
Yeah.
In the next few seasons to come, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Jacob, what do you think?
Oh yeah, he's always had that ability to mark and kick goals ever since he was at Gold Coast, but been injured the last couple of years. His first year without interrupted so far. Fingers crossed.
So I think he's one of those players where if he gets his body right, he's nearly unstoppable. There's not much you can do about it. You just got to sit there and enjoy the show. All right, so we've come to the end of our first 3 match analysis. Jacob has his segment now, which we have brought in this week to lighten up the mood. So, Jacob, take us through it, mate. What have you got for us?
This week, I'm going to be reacting or saying of Brian Taylor.
Yeah.
Was out of bounds.
Oh, good old BT, mate.
Yeah.
So before I go on, we'll put BT's thing in there, just so you can have a listen to it, see what it is, and compare it to me, who I personally think is better than BT. So you have a listen to BT.
Boy went up with the full force of his body, and now Roughhead. That was out of bounds. 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 As Shields goal.
And then what have we got for yours? Here we go. This is going to be good.
That was all right from BT.
Yeah. You don't say.
I should be up there in the commentary.
All right. Well, show us why right now. Go on.
Another day. Go.
Pilopolo went down. Now Roughhead. That was out of bounds. 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 Shield goal.
Well done, mate. Well done.
I reckon that was all right.
What did you think of that, Camo?
Oh, I tell you what, I reckon that was all right.
You went all right.
Yeah, I reckon
right.
he did go all right. I reckon in the next few weeks we might have to chuck him some more challenging commentary lines, as that was pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, I need to have some vocal lessons just to that correct and nice.
Yeah.
It's like Brian Taylor.
Yeah. Do you listeners have any special commentary moments that you want Jacob to cover?
Yeah.
Email us at the end of the show we'll send them in. Send everything you want in. All right. What a segment. I reckon that segment could get off the ground. That was amazing. All right. Noah, you have Richmond versus Brisbane.
I do, mate. Another good game to start, and ended up being a fairly big blowout in the end. But
yeah, it did.
The 2 forwards, Jack Rewalt and Tom Lynch, they're most of the season haven't been showing their best footy, and in this game started to look like they were coming back to their grand final day.
Yeah.
In 2019.
Yeah.
They played a fairly good game against Brisbane.
Yeah.
A talking point were two deliberate out of bounds in under a minute.
Yes.
And I'm sure you boys saw this, but I did, and it did come to me, and I was thinking, well, is it starting to get a bit too harsh with the deliberate out of bounds? What do you boys think?
I think they've sort of changed the rule so that it doesn't fit the name anymore. If a player, you can see nowadays, a player will 100% just shank a kick, and it's sort of, in my eyes, it's if the ball goes over the boundary line under a certain speed and a player is a certain distance away, it's just an automatic free kick, which is not what the rule is meant to be interpreted as, but yet the umpires are still seeing it as that. Maybe home crowd has an advantage, but, this season you can't put it down to that. So I think they need to have a long look at it.
Yeah, you go.
They have to be obvious.
Exactly.
The tiny ones have to be obvious.
Yeah.
Obvious.
Yeah, I was very surprised because Richmond it went against Richmond both times.
Yeah.
And they were kicking it, and one of the balls, he was getting tackled, and he had to get rid of the ball.
Yeah.
And it came off his foot and was bouncing out. There was a Richmond player running towards the ball, and it's gone out, and they've paid it deliberate. And I've thought, well, this can't be right, because that can't be deliberate. And it's happened 2 times in a row, one after another. And I was just thinking, well, that it just can't be right, because it's happened twice in a row, and if you look at it, you can clearly tell that it's not deliberate out of bounds. And it wasn't just that game. There was a fair few games that were paid deliberate over the few rounds, and I just feel like it's getting way too harsh.
And of course, we can also look at the new holding the ball interpretation, where prior opportunity is extremely limited now, like ridiculous.
It is, exactly.
So it's sort of, if you're, I guess, like a young kid trying to tune into the footy for the first time, it's almost as if the game is disencouraging you from picking up the ball. Because if you are near the boundary line, you have to pick up the ball and dispose of it without getting it out of bounds, which is a tough feat on a curved oval. And
yeah, but what it was meant to be was when you pick up the ball, if you've got the attempt to get rid of it straight away and then someone tackles you, that would be paid holding the ball. But it just, in my mind, it doesn't feel like that should be the rule.
Yeah,
it should be they have enough time to actually try and get rid of it. And if they've made an attempt and they haven't got rid of it, then they'll pay it. But if they can't, like they physically can't get rid of the ball.
Yeah.
For instance, we've seen a few games where the player hasn't been holding the ball on them. The other player who's tackled them is actually holding the ball behind them. So it looks like they're actually holding it, but they're not, and they're being paid for holding the ball when they're not actually holding it.
Yeah.
But to go back to the Brisbane-Richmond game, Brisbane's backline really started to collapse in the end of the first half.
Yeah.
And the forward pressure was just up by Richmond. And their midfield, Dusty Martin, he's been back into form again, smashing in that second quarter.
Yeah.
And throughout the rest of the game. But that second quarter was very crucial. Richmond, their breakaway score at halftime was 53-26.
Yep.
And that was big. When we look at it, because Brisbane were up at the start and looked a better team straight from the gun. That third quarter, 5 points from Brisbane to 1 goal to Richmond, and there was about 3:55 remaining in the third, and that third quarter was just nobody scoring. The pressure was just up by both sides.
Yeah,
couldn't get it into anyone's forward line.
And I think after watching that Brisbane-Richmond game, in my eyes, this is probably going to be a very controversial statement. In my eyes, the most valuable player at the Brisbane Lions at the moment is Harris Andrews. He has to mop up so much in defence, and then he gets it to the midfield brilliantly, but the midfielders either turn it over or the forwards miss their shots. So he might need some help down there. 10 marks.
Moments,
yeah.
There has been a few plays that they've done it well, and they've been able to come through with it. But it did show in the Richmond game there was a bit of struggle.
I think one player that definitely needed to lift was Eric Hipwood, because he had 1 goal for 6 disposals. And that's not good enough for a key forward. You need to be getting more touches than that in a game of football.
Yeah, and I feel like I think it was about 2 years ago, he was a really good forward. He was really good in the forward line, and he would take a lot of good marks, and he'd be kicking very well.
Yeah.
I remember a few games watching him play, and he'd be dominating in the forward line, getting a lot of marks and a lot of kicks. But I don't know, it's just this season he just hasn't been on point again.
Yeah.
If he gets back in the form.
Yeah, he does.
All right.
But the one to finish off, as was said, the horrible kicking shots and accuracy.
Yeah.
Brisbane 21 scoring shots to Richmond 22.
Yeah.
And you look at it, 4 goals, 17. Like, you just think about it and you're like, well, how's that happened? And it's just crazy to think if they had have converted all their goals, the scoring would have been much higher. And the goals that they would have kicked would have been much better.
And then, of course, there was the Tom Lynch incident where he's done the most cruel act you can do in AFL, whack someone when they're not looking. If you're going to do it, at least be a man and look them in the eyes. So, again, we'll get into that in your segment, Noah. But it still was a stupid act and he deserved to get fined for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright, next game now. Jacobs, your Saints had a very close and nervy win over Gold Coast up at Metricon.
Game around this one.
Yeah.
St Kilda Gold Coast up at Metricon. Thursday night at 8 o'clock. So, it was game of the round. Sure. Both two attacking and up-and-coming sides.
Yeah.
Dan Butler, clutch, 4 goals for him. Billings, 27 disposals. And Gold Coast had a few standouts.
Yeah.
Had lots of consistency around the field.
Yep.
And King up front kicked 3. Took Miller kick a couple. Then Hugh Greenwood is pretty good for Gold Coast. He's their best player, sure.
Yeah.
But then Isaac Rankin, he'll be something in the future. He looks good.
Yeah.
Very good.
He's at a young age. He's doing.
Took that big mark.
Yeah. Yes. How good was
Big
that?
mark.
Yes.
Goal at the end. That was a very good goal.
Yeah.
Be up there.
He's been starting to take a fair few good marks. Getting up there, the little man.
Yeah.
Starting to jump up.
Sure.
You can definitely tell how much he's scaring his direct opponent at a young age, which is really good for a young footballer to have.
That's what you want.
There was a lot of hype around him last year.
Yeah.
Since he couldn't play, he had a few issues with his strings at the start of the season, and then couldn't get fit. But then, has he been the best recruit for the season? And put in mind, St Kilda only got him for pick 56.
Dan Butler. I think if he can start turning out more, what was it? 4-goal performance in the weekend, I think it was, from Dan Butler. So if he can start doing more of... So if he can start producing more of those every week, I think it'll be definitely in the talk for the best recruit of the year. But that also leads me to talk... That also leads me to talk about St Kilda. Most of their goals were kicked from 20 metres or less out from the goal square. So it's obvious that their tactic is to run it as close as they can.
Over the last, I don't know how many years, in front of goal, and then Brett Runn's come this year and said, don't kick those silly goals from impossible angles.
Yeah.
Go from in front. Just keep passing the ball around until an easy goal from 2 metres out.
And of course, you've got it. That's got to come back. That's got to come back from the Hawthorn time when Brett Ratton was coaching on the Hawthorn staff during the premierships. Something he would have picked up from Clarko valuably. I wish the Hawks could do the same thing now, but they can't, unfortunately.
They'll be up there in Coach of the Year so far.
Oh, yeah, they are travelling very well. And in this season of uncertainty, for Saints fans, why not? Why can't it be this year? Why can't this year just be the year they finally win it and get their drought over with? It would be great for them.
This year, that St Kilda, it'll probably be the year.
You hope so.
No St Kilda fans would be allowed to go because it would not be in Victoria.
Right.
Saints had a good win.
You got to be happy with it.
Are we going to Geelong North?
Yeah, Geelong North. I think Geelong North was sort of what we expected, really, wasn't it? Geelong sort of half long it out in the end to 33 points. So Brian Myers was very good. 4 goals with 3 marks and 2 tackles. Standout performance for a forward of his calibre. Tom Hawkins kicked 3 goals and he had 7 marks. He looked very unstoppable. Now, Jared Polak for North Melbourne kicked a great set shot from more than 50 out to swing momentum north way. But in such weeks, the momentum came just too late for the Kangaroos. You know, it was too late for them to muster up something.
I know a Kangaroos fan, and he's not happy with their performance.
Yeah, no, neither.
Walker, if you're listening.
Yeah.
The other night when they're watching the footy, it's the news. They were that bad.
Yeah. Wow. Jeez. So
they need to show something. Like they had a good win against Adelaide.
Yeah.
They need to keep the ball rolling.
So
they had an alright start, and then Geelong just started to kick off on them.
Yeah. You've got to hope the best for Ben Brown and his injury. He went down in the first quarter because it's quite obvious to all that North Melbourne's implied tactic is kick it to a running lead. You know, there's no bring it down to ground because they don't really have that many players in the forward line who are ready for it to come down to the ground. It's kick to Ben Brown and hope he marks it. Yeah, no, he can't. Lockie Hosey did very well though. The debutant kicked 2 goals on debut, very good. And there was I want to quickly mention Jasper Pittard. I'm pretty sure he's turned his hair blonde and he's got all the tats on him. No, he looked extremely scrappy to mine. If I was a North Melbourne fan, I would shit myself every time he got the ball because he's not doing the North Melbourne fans a load of confidence. His ball skills were not good on the weekend. He needs to lift, as well as do North Melbourne, but they did come up against a very tough opposition in Geelong, so I'll sort of let them off for this round.
Well, going a bit soft there, mate.
Oh, a little bit. But I mean, you play against one of the best teams, and their key forward's gone down in the first quarter. There's not much you can do. Jed Anderson, very good. But he's not being helped out. He's not being helped out. I think he had quite a few turnovers, and as did midfielder Jai Simpkin. 7 turnovers for one player in a match of football. That's incredible. You don't think it that many. Exactly, in shortened quarters.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous.
Like to see it when it's going your way, but it wasn't going their way. But just for that to happen it's good from the players' perspective.
And so I'll lead you to. I ask this question now to you two. What do you think is leading to the inconsistency of North Melbourne this season? I'll give you a moment to think about it.
A couple of wins at the start of the season.
Yes.
They beat St Kilda.
Yeah.
Came back from 6 goals down. They beat the AWS the next week.
Yeah.
They did, yes.
And they're up and about. Up and about.
They had an alright run. They were going strong, and then they came up against the Hawks, and they looked a better side. To be honest, they did look the better side, and I thought they were going to win.
Yeah.
That final quarter, they really started to show what they were made of, and I thought they were going to have a great season. And they started to have a few more close games and a few good games, but it just over the last few rounds it just hasn't really been their way.
And of course, the momentum shifts for North Melbourne are good. Like when they get the momentum on their side, they're very lethal. But the problem is that they queue up the momentum shift with 5 minutes left in games. So 5 minutes of the last quarter is not going to win you a football match. A 4-quarter performance does.
Exactly, and that's what happens. It happens a lot in the footy.
Yeah.
You look at Hawthorn. Hawthorn have been playing the last few rounds, apart from the one against Carlton.
Dismal.
They've been playing
complete dismal.
First quarter footy.
Yeah.
And then sometimes second quarter footy if they turn up.
Yeah.
And after that, they'd just be dead. They wouldn't be playing any more footy, any more good footy like they used to be. And you just look at it and you think all the teams that aren't playing well are only really starting well at the start, and they're jumping the gun too early, and then they've got nothing left in the tank. Yeah,
it is crazy.
One thing I reckon they went too early on appointing Reshaw as their coach.
You think? It does feel like they sort of rushed into it and kind of skipped the tryouts for it, doesn't it?
They need someone with more experience. Like Reshaw, he's had a couple of years over at Sydney, and he came over to North. And he was assistant at North for a tiny bit, and then he got the head role.
Mm-hmm.
I reckon they've jumped the guns.
Yeah, I do too.
Someone with a bit more experience.
Yeah. And maybe if they just waited a little longer, maybe if they just waited a little longer as well, something better could have come up for them. You never know.
Exactly, and they could have had another few appointments from other coaches that have been, or even older players. Like I know Reshaw. I'm not too sure if he was the right pick for them. They could have waited a little bit longer to see if there was something better.
Oh, we got to hope for North Melbourne fans. Yeah. All right, Noah, you've got your segment.
Your time to shine now.
Rightio. So we're going to go to the tribunal.
All right, I like it.
So we've got an incident happening in the Sydney Collingwood game.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't too much of an incident, but Sam Wicks was under investigation for the ban after the incident with Isaac Quainer.
Yep.
Who sustained a severe gash, 20 centimetres on the right shin.
Yep.
What do we think about that, boys?
Anything that can inflict a damage that's 3 inches into your leg obviously can't be good.
Yeah, exactly.
They've now banned that boot.
Yeah, but
they have.
You would think that they would think about it earlier to do it though.
I almost feel bad for the kid because he was only a debutant as well.
Yeah. I think it's good. It's good that they haven't sanctioned him because it would be very cruel to the first game if they sanctioned him.
But rightio, next one. Alex Neil-Bullen being handed a 4-match ban following the incident against Will Hamill. He's just about sling tackled him
Yeah.
and knocked him out. A dangerous tackle, clearly in my eyes.
Yeah.
And it was just rough conduct.
Rough conduct, yes. Hard tackle, yes. But what kind of weak football is being advertised if a player is getting a 4-match ban for trying to tackle someone and it's gone wrong? And
But you look at it, if they've only given it a 1-match ban, he's not going to learn from it. You need something bigger than a 1 or 2 match ban.
Yeah.
What's that going to do? What's it going to do to him? If you give it at
warning.
least 3 or 4 weeks, they're gonna take it and look back at it. 1 week's not going to do anything in my eyes.
Sean Burgoyne did a similar action, just sling tackle.
yeah,
He did.
Said-
Yeah.
they were more
Everyone
lenient.
has it. Ready for a few weeks on the sideline.
Yeah,
And it was very similar as well. When you look at it and you just think, well, what's going on? They just don't know. I just don't know what they're really thinking with the bans. But honestly, there's been so many tackles happen that have all been the same and all been pretty rough. But yeah, so the next talking point is Tom Lynch against Brisbane. Smack to the back of the head.
Yeah.
It looked forcefully to me.
it was honest. To sum it up, really, in a few seconds, it's just a cowardly act.
Yeah,
It is a cowardly act.
It wasn't really called for, to be honest.
It wasn't at all.
He tackled him, but he didn't need to do the extra
No, he didn't. That's
extra
right.
on it.
No, that's right.
Like, once you've made a tackle, you can maybe give him a bit of talk, but don't smack someone in the back of the head for no reason.
That's right. And I think
it could have damaged him like fairly big as well if he had have hit him hard enough.
yeah, big impacts. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And I
That's what you
think
look at.
these, first we've got the fine for Tom Papley diving, and then there's the fine now for Tom Lynch coming in. $500 to an AFL player is practically a joke. You think that they are earning thousands of dollars a game, your $500 fine. Like, that's nothing.
Yeah.
They should be getting at least 1,000 in my eyes to learn from it.
Yeah, I feel like that.
Alright, Jacob, you've got the last game of the round, which occurred last Friday night. Essendon versus the Giants. Go for it.
It looked like this game had the 4 points in the bag, but they ran out of steam towards the end.
Yeah, they threw it away.
Just had legs and just said, "Here you go, have a win."
Yep.
But Zach Merritt was good for Essendon. He had 33 touches.
Yep.
Grano, good for GWS, 32. But GWS's midfield, they're good. They have a good midfield.
Yeah.
They do, and they're starting to grow a bit more as the years go on. They're starting to get stronger.
They need to stand up. They need to stand up every week. Just not 1 week and next week, I'll have a break. They need to stand up every week and just keep the same form, be consistent.
That's
when I
right.
was watching that game, Essendon started to show at points that why they were still a great side. But,
Yep.
They were up by 29 points in the third quarter, and I was watching it and I was thinking, well, that's it.
There's no way they throw it away now. Surely not.
Exactly.
And they have.
And then fourth quarter comes along, and I think it was Cameron kicked the first goal in the first 30 seconds of the start of the final quarter.
Yeah.
And they ended up kicking about 5 or 6 goals in a row, and Essendon didn't kick a single one.
Yeah.
And they just started to look a fairly bit dominant, and I was just thinking, well, it can't be right. If you look at Essendon, they were leading by 29 points, and they've just blown it away.
But I mean, then again, because Essendon somehow managed to, I can't talk because I'm a Hawthorn fan, but because they managed to lose that lead, it did make it very interesting to bias supporters tuning into the game. Yeah. And of course, at the I think something that's going to go very untalked about was Adam Sard's goal from about 55 out with a few seconds remaining. And then
That was
two seconds left to the game to go. Anthony McDonald, Tipping Woody, was playing his best footy out of the middle. He was just going. He was about to run on from 50 and score a goal. And then the siren's gone and the game ended. So it begs up.
Yeah. If it had been an extra 5 seconds, he would have kept running.
Exactly right. But going back to Anthony McDonald, Tipping Woody, in about 5 minutes left in the last quarter, he had an opportunity to seal the deal for Essendon. 45 metres out, set shot. He's the best kick in their team for me, set shots. Instead, he's gone and passed it to the Irishman, Sean McKernan, which did not make any sense to me, but it was all right. Okay, Sean, just go back and kick the goal. And he's gone and missed it. The margin was about 4 points to Essendon. It was going to put him out of doubt because it wasn't a high-scoring game. So it would have been put the game over and done with, but he's gone and passed it off. I mean, obviously I see this as kind of like a good act by Tipping Woody because he's just that kind of man, a good team player. But sometimes you've just got to take destiny into your own hands,
Yeah, exactly. And it just showed that, like, it was almost pressure. Like, he didn't want to kick it because he was like, well, what happens if I miss? You almost thought that he was trying to overthink it as well.
Yep.
But yeah, he was trying to do the team thing and pass it off, and
yeah.
But yeah, it was just I just felt like he should have gone back and slaughtered it.
Yeah, I hope they can lift next week against Gold Coast because it'll be a tough match for them.
It will be a tough match.
Yeah, even
interesting one too.
All right, that rounds out our game analysis. So now I'll go on to my segment, which I am naming myself "Blast from the Past." All right.
Oh, man,
So Blast from the Past. Every week, I'm going to be bringing you a story of forgotten AFL history or part of the AFL history that people do not recognise very well or do not know much about. And for the first week of this, I'm bringing you the short story, or my shortened version story, of Melbourne University Football Club. They were in the AFL, or as it was known as then, the VFA, from 1908 to 1914. So they're a league team for only 6 years. So they were often called the students or the professors because of their ties to the Melbourne University. They only lasted 8 years in the VFA. They went on, during their history, there was a time where they had a 50-game losing streak. And you think about how many teams were in the competition there, nowhere near the full 18 of today. That's a lot of games lost, a 50 streak.
It is. It's fairly big, but back then it would have been. It was completely different.
It was horrible. They used to play at the East Melbourne ground, which has since been taken down, I believe, 93 years ago. So a long time ago we're talking here. So they never made finals. They had a good spell where they finished 6th, 5th, 6th, but that's not finals. So I beg the question. I think they're the story of the most forgotten team ever in the AFL VFL history. I can't go. I don't think.
That not many people.
Yeah. So, of course, you've got the big teams now, like South Melbourne. They turned into Sydney, and Fitzroy eventually turned into Brisbane. But this wasn't it for Melbourne University, or University as they were called. It was just, it's over. They're done now. So they have their history. The name first appeared in the 1860s. In 1862, there was the Caledonian Society Cup. So for the best football team. And 1860s, there's no proper footy teams really. So the university met the Melbourne Demons in a challenge game in 1863. But it seems that the student, or the university team, they got their math wrong, and this is in the 1860s, mind you. University were called out by Melbourne for a head count. Now, if you don't know what a head count is, it's where the captain of the other team goes to the umpire and says, "Stop the game, I believe the other team has too many players on the field, let's count." And remarkably, University did have too many players on the field, so their score was set back to 0 and they went on to lose the game.
Oh, wow.
So,
that is big.
Even in the 1860s, you've still got funny stories of teams not being able to count how many players they got on the field and stuff. And it still comes up today.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
Well done, Cameron.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
Yeah, we better move on to the tips.
We better.
Next week's
All right.
tips or this week's
All right.
tips.
So let's go through. We'll go through them one by one, shall we? Each game, so you can have a go.
Go on, then.
All right. We'll start off. So we're starting off on the day we're recording. It's currently 12 o'clock p.m. About 4:30, we've got Port Adelaide at Adelaide Oval versus Richmond. Big game. Who do you guys think?
It is a big game. For me, I have gone for Port.
Yep.
I don't know why. To be honest, I feel like Richmond. It was just a hard one to pick, really.
Yeah, it was.
Because it could have gone either way. It could be going either way, really.
Yeah.
It could be a blowout or it could be a close one.
Yep.
To either side.
Yeah.
It's pretty even, to be honest, by both sides. But I've gone with Port by 17 points.
Yeah. Jacob?
Oh, good thing you said it. Oh, sorry, man, I was having a sleep. I've gone for Richmond.
Oh, geez, a little bit of a smoky there for
Richmond
Jacob.
will win.
You think?
Look it up.
Yeah, alright, jeez. It's a bold call.
But
I've gone Port Adelaide. I don't think Richmond will be able to handle the home crowd of Port Adelaide, especially we were talking about before. How maybe the crowds impact the umpire decisions. Let's see how it goes on the weekend free kick count for Port Adelaide. Next game, Saturday night, 7:40 at the Gabba, Brisbane versus the Bulldogs. I just don't see the Bulldogs having a chance in this one, to be honest. It's a bit this is lackluster.
Really.
Yeah.
I've gone with Brisbane. At the Gabba as well. But you look at it, Western Bulldogs, they've had a few games where they've actually shined and they've played some good footy. And if they can play some good footy, they'll give Brisbane their run for their money.
Yeah, they will. But they have to.
Yeah,
they do have to pick up from last week. Jake.
Brisbane.
Yeah.
Brisbane,
Yeah. All right. That was a pretty self-explanatory one, and so is the next one. Adelaide. What am I saying? Optus Stadium, West Coast versus Carlton. There's no way Carlton get over the top in this one.
So I feel like they've got a chance here. I feel like
You think?
Carlton have got a chance.
Bit of a smoky for Noah, you think?
I haven't gone with Carlton,
Yeah.
but you look at the game against Hawthorn,
Yeah.
and
The start.
they really could have smashed Hawthorn.
Yeah, they could have.
And if they had have played like very well, you look at the Oval.
Yeah.
It's like the MCG. It's very wide.
Yeah, it is, and they'll be used to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
then again,
I don't
yeah.
know. I feel like Carlton could go well, but I have gone with West Coast. It is a shock.
Yeah.
But I've gone with West Coast.
Jacob?
West Coast, Optus Stadium.
Yeah, too easy. Alright. So how's this? Sunday at 6:10. The two Melbourne teams playing in Adelaide. There's not many times you'll be able to say that throughout your life. So
That'll be nice to watch.
who do you think North Melbourne can pick up, or do you think Melbourne are going to overpower them?
I've gone with Melbourne again. I feel like they're going to overpower them.
Jacob?
I'm going to Kanga.
Roo. You have some faith. You have some faith. Yeah, putting your faith in the shin boners this week, Jacob. And putting your faith in the shin boners this
I
week.
don't reckon people will be watching the news. I reckon they'll be watching this game because North Melbourne are going to win.
Jeez, I've gone for Melbourne. But if Melbourne come out not firing, anything can happen on that field.
This is a big one. The next one, 6:10 at the Gabba.
Yeah.
Matilda versus Geelong boys. What do we think?
I reckon Geelong will snatch this. Personally,
Yep. Jacob, mate, what do you think?
the St Kilda
I
fan.
reckon it'll be a blowout. Hold up.
Tell me. See,
He's gone big
I
there.
needed at the Gabba this year.
if you're saying it's going to be a
They're gonna win
blowout,
average of 53 points at the Gabba.
I've gone for Saints as well, mate.
really?
Yes, mate.
Wow.
I'm back in the Sainers.
Wow.
I can't see Geelong winning at the Gabba
Just
against Saints.
Just quickly, Jacob. Let's just say St Kilda were to bomb the ball. No, sorry. Let's just say Geelong were to bomb the ball to Tom Hawkins in the air. What defender from St Kilda is going to be able to stop that?
We've got Dougal Howard, Jay Carlisle, mate. We'll be all over him.
I don't think so.
They've got a good side, mate.
I won't though. I would obviously, as a Hawthorn fan, I want St Kilda to win because I hate Geelong. But I mean, I don't think they're gonna get over the line. Fremantle Hawthorn. Yeah, that's the next one. Fremantle Hawthorn at Optus.
Yes, it is. I've obviously gone for the Hawks, my home side, but I feel like it'll be a close one.
Yes,
Playing at Optus is helping Hawthorn a lot. It being similar to the MCG is just the wider ground and they're used to it.
Yeah.
It'll be a test for the Hawks, really. If we seem to go down, then there will be a talking point in the news, I'm sure, about that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just feel like Hawthorn. It'll either be a close one or Hawthorn will smash.
Because I think the ball movement against Carlton you saw was much better on Adelaide. So I reckon I've gone for Hawthorn as well, but I'm not, in any world or sense, I'm not confident in my tip here. I'm not.
Really?
No, I'm not confident in tipping Hawthorn. You can never be confident in tipping Hawthorn. Then again, you can't really be confident in tipping any team this year. Except the next game, which is Collingwood. Oh, Jacob hasn't done his tip for Hawthorn yet. Gotta go Hawthorn. Come on, Jacob, Hawthorn.
Fremantle will win by 5 goals.
You know what? I honestly, I'm not even going to count that out from happening. I think it's a good chance to happen. Alright, next game is probably the most predictable game you would assume. Adelaide versus Collingwood at Adelaide Oval. Collingwood, for me.
Yeah, I've gone Collingwood as well.
Yeah.
It's just the form. Adelaide haven't won a game all season and Collingwood been on top.
Yep.
Would you like to know who I'm going for?
I do.
He's going for Adelaide, isn't he?
I'm going for the Adelaide.
You're going for Adelaide, but do you think they're going to be able to win?
I've tipped them the last 3 weeks.
Okay.
I have to stick with them.
And they've let you down, mate.
I have. I've been happy, but
Jeez, alright.
I feel like redemption.
This is a game they could win.
You think?
It's at Adelaide Oval.
Yeah.
I reckon they won't beat any of the bottom sides. I reckon they'll come out. They've got nothing to lose against Collingwood. They'll come out. They've got something.
Because let's be honest, if Adelaide don't string a win together in the next 2 or 3 games, their season is 100% gone. So they're basically just playing for pride now. So let's see what they've got for the jumper.
Exactly.
And to round it out, Wednesday night at Metricon, Gold Coast versus Bombers. I've gone Gold Coast. I don't think the Bombers will be able to fix out their problems that quickly or sort out their lackluster.
I'm the same, mate. I'm the same. I've gone with Gold Coast. So I just feel like they're playing well. They're playing good footy, and I just feel like they're too strong of a side to.
Yeah, agreed.
Lose, really?
Jacob,
Jacob, mate.
For me.
Okay. Rightio.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of No Prior Opportunity. If you have any questions that you want answered on the podcast, please email nopriorpodcast@gmail.com. That's nopriorpodcast@gmail.com. All lowercase, no spaces. Thanks for listening. Catch you in the next one.